Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I am your host, Stephen Pynakker, and I have a very fascinating guest that I'm pleased to introduce to my primarily Latter-day Saint audience. He is a rabbi, originally born in Morocco, of Jewish lineage, and he is part of the Raelian movement. My friend Ariel, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me into your program. And I am very glad because, as you are Mormons, and we have so much in common with the Raelian message given by the Elohim to Rael, like they give to Joseph Smith many years ago. And it was the same message. And Rael mentioned us, Joseph Smith was one of the Elohim prophets.
Okay, and this is fantastic. So here we have an outside group started in 1973, in which and we're going to have Ariel kind of give his history, but also a little bit of history of the Raelian movement. But you have this outside movement that actually identifies Joseph Smith as a person who had an encounter with Elohim. Does that sound familiar? And is one of his prophets. Isn't that interesting? And I thought that this is very tangential to the conversation that I'm having with the restoration of an outside group that independently made a determination that Joseph Smith is a prophet of Elohim and had engagements with him. That is mind blowing to me. And I think it's really important that we just have this conversation to see, but not only that, but the similar cosmology of Mormonism and Raelianism. There are many, many parallels that I think you will key in on when Ariel demonstrates that many of the beliefs that Joseph Smith was teaching that were often very innovative and new to the audience at the time were also things that the Raelian movement has tapped into as well. So were Joseph Smith and the Raelians, are they tapping into the same source? Do they have a similar cosmology? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Ariel, I want to kind of give the floor to you. I'd like for you to tell a little bit about yourself and also about the history of the Raelian movement. And just for folks, so you know, Ariel's done this, has spoken on many programs. He was interviewed by Bill Maher. He's been interviewed by a lot of different people, but this is the first time that he's going to be addressing this very fascinating topic of how Mormonism and Raelianism are very similar in many different ways. Thank you, Ariel, for coming on the program, and please share your story.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, about myself, I was born in a religious, traditional Jewish family in Morocco. On both sides, my father's side, my mother's side, they were both very religious. And I always had questions since I was a child because I was going to synagogue with my grandfather and so and so and so, who was a very religious and well-known person in Tangier. And I always had questions, to teachers in school, to rabbis, to my father, to my grandfather, but never got the right question because the only answer that I got, this is what they taught us, and this is what we're teaching you, and this is the way it is. But, I was always like, I was hungry to get some food, some answers to my question, which I never got. First of all, Elohim is a plural of the word Eloha. And so many names, El Shaddai, Elyon, and this and that, and Yahweh, and Elohim, and Adonai, and all that. And if he's one single God, why so many names? So that's the way it is. Don't ask questions. That's it. You will understand one day. One day I grew up. I was uh, observing all the Judaism, all the celebrations, all the Yom Kippur, the Shabbat. I got married with a Jewish girl. I had two children. My son got circumcised, and I was running my life that way until the day I found out a book. And after reading it, it answers all the questions I had since my childhood. And
Wow. What was the name of this book?
the book was the book which tell the truth, which now the name of that book is Intelligent Design. So in that book, it mentions the encounter of a man called Rael. They give the name to Rael. His name was Claude Vorillon. On December 13, 1973, he went to his office. He was driving to his office as he was a journalist of Sport Car magazine. He has his own magazine. And all of a sudden, he felt the urge to go a different direction and go to close to Clermont-Ferrand, to the Puy de la Sola, which is an old volcano. In that old volcano, he was there. It was December 13. He used to go there with his family on during summertime. But all of a sudden, it was cold, a little bit chilly, December 13, in the middle of a volcano. He had work to do. And all of a sudden, he said, what I'm doing here, I'm going back to my work. Then he saw something shining in the sky. At the beginning, he thought it was an helicopter. Then there was no noise, and a flashlight was above, and another light beyond, under what he discovered was a UFO. So it was coming down, and he said, well, if I had a camera, I could have made a nice reportage, as I am a journalist. He didn't have any camera, and a ladder opened on that UFO, and he saw 2 feet coming down. Then he freaked out. He said, I'm not going to move because they probably believe I am a tree or something, and they're going to leave. Doesn't happen that way. Then he saw what he thought at the beginning it was a child, because 1 meter 30 or 1 meter 40, a man coming toward him with his face full of love, shining, no weapons, nothing, no aggressivity at all. And he approached him. And Claude Vorillon, as he speaks only French, asked him a question in French. You see, he asked him, do you speak French? And the extraterrestrial replied, I speak all the languages in the world in French. Then Claude Vorillon asked him again, do you come here often? The extraterrestrial replied, I come here many times. And today I came to meet with you, Claude Vorillon. You are married. You have 2 children. You're running a sport car magazine. And we telepathically induce you to come here today because we have a message for you. We telepathically induced you about 2 weeks ago to buy a Bible from La Pléiade, in which is the only Bible the word Elohim was not mistranslated by God. Then he invited him into his craft, and he gave him the following message. Over 25,000 years ago, we came to Earth and started creating all forms of life with genetic manipulations of DNA. We are the ones that send all prophets from all religions, among the most important ones, Moses, Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, and Joseph Smith. Then he told him, oh, since the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, we found the urge to send a last messenger, because you can auto-destroy yourself with nuclear weapons, or you can progress with nuclear weapons. And because we created you, we don't want you to destroy yourselves. This is the reason why we have sent so many prophets, but maybe it was not the right time for humanity to understand. And now we have reached the time of apocalypse, which doesn't mean destruction. It means revelation. It's time to bring the truth and the knowledge to the people, that they will understand we are human beings that created you. We have been created, and we will create other human, and you will create other human beings one day, because this is a chain of creation of life. We have 2 aims for you. First of all, I'm going to change your name from Claude Vorillon to Rael. Rael, which is in Hebrew, Ra'el, which means he saw Elohim.
Hmm.
And also, as you know, all the Egyptians, at the time of the Egyptians, they say Rael, which means Ra is the sun, and El is Elohim. He is the son of the Elohim, he's the light of the Elohim. And the two aims they give him is the first one was to spread this message worldwide. And the second one, to bring them, to build them an embassy, which is the third temple in Zion, which is close to Jerusalem. So this is a wrap up of the book, Intelligent Design, that you can have on rael.org, which is free.
Okay,
You can
great. And I will
download
put a
it for
link. I'll put a link in the description for people to be able to get that
free.
book.
You
Excellent.
can download that book. Any of your auditors can download that book absolutely free. They can read it. And if they're interested, they will contact us. Or if
Okay.
they have any questions, we're here to answer.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, continue. So there's a lot of parallels already, folks, that I think you're probably picking up on. This
Yes,
idea of having a heavenly visitation, very similar parallels, of course, the first vision of Joseph Smith. The idea that God or Elohim is a human like us is also very similar to Mormon cosmology. The idea
absolutely.
that God is an organizer is something of materials is seems to parallel and rather than within Christianity, we believe in creation ex nihilo, creation from nothing. Um, the Latter-day Saints believe that eternal matter and that God was an organizer of it. And what he's saying is 25,000 years ago, we had these humans come and organize and manipulate DNA to eventually create us, who then will be creating other humans and maybe peopling other planets in much the same way that Mormon cosmology teaches as well. Continue with this fascinating story, Ariel.
Absolutely. Listen, we have so much in common with the Mormon people. The Davidic servant is already alive among us, and the Davidic servant is Rael, the last Elohim messenger. Now, Joseph Smith, in his book, Abraham 4.26, he said, the gods in plural, which means the Elohim, took counsel among themselves and said, let us go down and form man in our image after our likeness. And Elohim said, let us man in our image according to our likeness in Genesis 1:26. Yahweh, when he talked to Rael, he saw in our image, sorry, I'm reading at the same time,
Mhm.
in our image, you can see that the resemblance is striking. Elohim means those, in ancient Hebrew, Elohim means those who come from the skies. Now, Joseph Smith predicted the coming of the Davidic servant in Isaiah 42.1. Then in Rael book, in page 83, behold my servant, who I upon mine elected, in whom I put all my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment, as he said in Isaiah 42.1. And Yahweh, when he was talking to Rael, he told him, you are the one who will spread the truth among the world, which was which has been revealed you over in the past few days. I mean, he revealed to him in the past few days. And in Joseph Smith, Doctrine Covenant 79.9, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, not the tree. This we have sealed, and seven of our gods in the forehead. The fourth angels under the direction of Elijah have been given. Now, what is to seal in the forehead? As you know, we Raelians, 4 times a year, we have a celebration for those who recognize the Elohim as an extraterrestrial civilization who created us to their image. And during these 4 dates, on December 13, which is the same date the first encounter Rael had with the Elohim. On October 7, which is the second encounter Rael had with the Elohim, when they took him to their planet, as they took Joseph Smith and all the other prophets. The third one is on the first Sunday of April, which is the first day they created the first human being.
Hmm.
And the other day that we can do this be sealed in the forehead, which is what we call the transmission of the cellular plan, is on August 6th, which was the anniversary of the atomic bomb of Hiroshima, that this will not happen again because we can auto-destroy ourselves.
Hmm.
In Rael book, in page 295, saying heart not to the earth, neither the sea. Okay, in Rael book, Yahweh say, okay, manual contact, the people who will be seed in the forehead, as Joseph Smith mentioned, those who will have their cellular plant transmission, which is a Raelian baptism, by manual contact between our prophet and their forehead.
Hmm.
And Joseph Smith mentioned here also, the Davidic servant will gather Israel and build Zion. What is Zion? Zion is the third temple that should be built close to Jerusalem.
Okay, fascinating.
And Rael, he's the one that should build this third temple, either close to Jerusalem or elsewhere, because the state of Israel have already refused 7 times because of religious pressure and monotheism and all that, which, they refuse so many times they refuse all the prophets that were sent to Israel so many times.
I want to also kind of just explain to you too a parallel in the modern context of the Latter-day Saint Church and Israel. So the Latter-day Saint Church actually had printed a Hebrew version of the Book of Mormon. Okay. But in the early 80s, they wanted to build their Jerusalem Center, which is right by the temple. But they made a deal with the Israeli government that if they built that Jerusalem Center in by the temple, that the Latter-day Saints could not proselytize, they could not try to even talk about their religion with Jews, and that they were just there to do their educational stuff there for as an extension of Brigham Young University. One of the other stipulations was that they would destroy all their Hebrew versions of the Book of Mormon so that they would basically they could go there, they could build their structure by the temple, but they couldn't spread their message, and that's how they were able to get into that spot that they're at. So it's kind of similar how they don't want you guys doing any proselytizing, so they probably would put so many restrictions on you that you would not have the ability to put out the message that I'm assuming you'd want to put out to the Jewish people.
This is the reason why I went to Israel to
Mm.
build the Raelian movement there. And I lived there for 18 years. And the first thing I did is to have my Israeli citizenship. Because as a Jew, you have the right of return
Uh-huh.
to the land of your ancestors, which, well, that was not the land of my ancestor, and that's not the land of the ancestors either of Netanyahu and the actual government of Israel, because they're all coming from Poland, from Russia, from Ukraine, and they're throwing out the people who are born there and have more rights to the land than themselves. And this is what any human being can tolerate. And what happened there is that, they give me the citizenship, the Israeli citizenship, and that's the first thing I did because they cannot throw me out. Because everyone that do proselytism to another religion than the Jewish religion, they throw them out. So by being Israeli, they cannot throw me out.
Well, that's one way to work around it, and that's interesting. So, just since you brought it up, and I want to continue to go back and talk about maybe the similarities in beliefs, but also just kind of understanding that since you've been in Israel for all this time, what kind of progress have you been making? How's it been like living in Israel, and what kind of reception are you and your message getting?
Well, we got a very good reception in Israel
Hmm.
because we're talking here about the people who got sealed in the forehead as Joseph Smith mentioned, which is a Raelian baptism, and I have done over 380 before I left Israel in 2005, in 2015, sorry. The progress we have been doing is that all governments were informed about the message of the Elohim, the land that they should give to build this third temple, and we have been spreading the message in the whole Israel. I gave hundreds of lectures there. Sometimes, as I mentioned, when it was in Tel Aviv, it was fine. When it was in Haifa, it was fine. But as soon as it was in Jerusalem, as soon as it was in the north of Israel, Tiberia, and all that, that was terrible. Because I was giving a lecture in 1993. I started running up in Israel, announcing the prophet Rael as the long-awaited Messiah in the holiest place of Judaism, which is the temple where the temple was built, with the shofar, which mount the sound of the trumpet, according to Hebrew tradition and religious scripts. Then we give many lectures there all over Israel. And one of the lectures, my last lecture, was in Tiberia. In Tiberia, we rented a place in a beautiful hotel. We had a lecture at 6 or 7 p.m. And we had to cancel the lecture. No, mostly the hotel had canceled the lecture because the rabbis went to the hotel and tell them, if you allow them to give a lecture on this matter, we will remove your certificate of kosher and your hotel, nobody will come here anymore. So we put you bankrupt. So they had no other choice than canceling our lecture, and we were allowed to give it.
Okay, and so you feel like these rabbis feel threatened by your message, and that's why.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because when I give a lecture or I give an interview with anyone, I have citations from the Tanakh, which is the original Hebrew Bible, citations from the Zohar, which is where the Kabbalah comes from, citations from Yom Kippur, citations from any Hebrew scripts, which confirm without the slight doubt the Elohim mentioned in all these scripts, and especially in the Tanakh, are an extraterrestrial civilization and not a single God. They have been thought as gods by our primitive ancestors who had no technology, no knowledge, no science, nothing. And this was the real problem, and they don't want to accept it because what I'm bringing are not my texts. These are the Hebrew texts from the Bible, from the Tanakh, the original Hebrew text. But the thing is that because they cannot prove the opposite, they cannot come. And they prefer not to attend or come into lectures and take out all the Jewish people that are interested in listening to this. Because, on my first lectures that I gave in Montreal, we rented the hall, we were giving a lecture. They brought school buses full of Hebrew students to block the entrance and not give access to anyone who want to enter our lecture. So some people had to force and say, we're going in for the lecture. But some others, they couldn't. They rent a hall exactly close to ours just to make noise that nobody could listen. And, they come to the lecture. How come? You're not ashamed. We're part of the same community and you're talking something that is wrong and you don't believe in God anymore. We say, hey, come here, sit with me and make me feel ridiculous in front of everyone by proving the opposite. Instead of doing noise, instead of asking people not to attend. Why don't you come over? I bring what I have, and you bring something that contradicts what I have. No, we don't want to attend. We don't want to listen to you. Same thing happened in Jerusalem when I blocked the entrance of the Rabbanut, which is the siege of all the rabbis in 1993. And the police came and all that, but I stayed there 2 hours because I wanted to talk to them and they don't want to accept me or giving me an interview.
Hmm. You know, it's so fascinating because, again, this is another parallel between the message that Joseph Smith was giving at the time and many of the other Christian leaders were attacking Joseph Smith, chasing him out of town, preventing them from speaking, persecuting them to the point that they had to keep on going from Kirtland, Ohio, to Independence, Missouri, to Nauvoo, and ultimately to Utah to leave the United States because at the time Utah was in Mexico, so that they continued to face persecution. They also, even in the state of Missouri, they had an extermination order
Wow.
to exterminate the Mormon people, and that was on that law was on the books well into the 20th century. So they had institutions, people, and when Joseph Smith was killed in 1844, June of 1844, it was by a mob full of Christians, Freemasons, um, and former friends of Joseph, former followers of Joseph, um, people who wanted him dead because he was running for president. A lot of people had motivations to kill Joseph Smith at this time and had a lot of different reasons why Joseph Smith needed to be eliminated, both political, social, religious as groups. So I think it's really important that there's a parallel in the persecution that your people have received by religious authorities and probably by government authorities as well. Um, that does parallel Joseph Smith. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Rael got so many threats, death threats. I got so many death threats. You can't imagine. But, you know, nothing happened. So we keep going and we keep, the most dangerous was when I was in Israel because I had some tough people there, religious one. And in a lecture that I gave in Paris many years ago, that I had to go out from the back door because they wanted to kill me. Many religious people came in with knives, with the sticks, with the I don't know, many artifacts. And I was dressed in white, and they told me, "We're going to put you in red. We're going to kill you here." And
Wow.
then we had to, well, the French police, the intelligence service had two people over there because they knew all this. So as soon as this started, they call the police there, and two buses came with sticks, and they put everybody out.
Hmm.
So I was lucky; I could run away. Someone took me with a motorcycle from the back door, and then I flew to another country. And
Wow.
the previous day, I gave a lecture in Antwerp, in Belgium, and it was great. I mean, the same rabbis as well, not the same one, but rabbis from Antwerp. They came into the lecture to take all the Jewish people out that were there. And I told them the same thing. Why don't you stay here and prove the opposite of what I'm saying? No. And responsible for I think the president of the Jewish community of Antwerp was there. And when I start talking to him and prove him, the Elohim, are an extraterrestrial civilization or a more advanced civilization that us, that created us, he was like, shocked because I prove him. And he was looking down. He couldn't look at me anymore. And even his wife was looking at him saying, "But you have nothing to say?" No, he had nothing to say.
Mm. So I want to go back to this idea of the Elohim and compare and contrast it with Mormon cosmology. So essentially, the Latter-day Saint view of God is quite different than traditional Christianity. And this was one of the reasons why I think there was persecution of Joseph, was because even the idea of God, he was challenging to the society as well. And Joseph taught in what was called would be called the King Follett sermon, which was actually a address he gave at a funeral for a gentleman by the name of King Follett, where he talked about how God was once a man like us, and that he is human of flesh and bone. Okay, he has a body. So we have a corporeal God who's genetically related to us. We are literally made in his image. We also have the idea that God came down, Elohim in particular, came down and impregnated Mary. Okay. And of course, you guys have some parallels with that as well. So what
Absolutely.
we have here is a God that's not outside of creation, but is actually part of the creation and the chief organizer of the creation, in particular to create the human species, to propagate our species, and for us to actually propagate other planets and build the human race throughout the universe. And this is kind of the grand cosmology of Mormonism. And it just seems to parallel so much of your beliefs as well. Perhaps expound on that.
Exactly the same. The
Wow.
Elohim created us to their image. They started creating life in their planet first.
Okay.
Then the I don't know, the people that they created were very aggressive. They escaped. They killed some of them. They earned Germany and they destroyed many things. So the government decided not to have any creation of human beings on the planet. They say, when you will get ready, try to find another planet, go there and create life, but never reveal them. We have created them or the way they have been created until they will understand one day. And this is exactly what happened. But on the book that on the message the Elohim gave to Rael, there is no God and there is no soul. We have a genetic code, which many people call the soul, but is our genetic code that is unique. Each and every one of us have their own genetic code, which is proper to you, to me, and to others.
Okay, and so now that this is interesting too, because you said that there is no God and we do not have a soul. Now, this, of course, would be controversial within
Of
Christian
course, of course.
theology, but does it necessarily conflict with Mormon cosmology? And one, just as an outsider, maybe kind of looking at it is, okay, if you're defining God as being a creature and not the creator, a product of the universe, not the creator of the universe, which is and people, please correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm misrepresenting Mormon cosmology and theology, please reach out to me because I want to make sure I'm being respectful of your beliefs. And again, this is kind of just a kind of a Cliff Notes version here, but you so have this idea that so within Christianity, the conventional Christianity teaches us that God is outside of our universe and spoke the universe into existence, thus the Big Bang, and that was the begin, but God was separate from it. Whereas what you're saying is that the Elohim are also creatures of this universe that and that they actually exist existed in the same way that the Mormon God existed and evolved and actually are like 25,000 years ahead of us, and that they are there to teach us or to help us become realize our potential as being potential divine beings in the sense that we could be like Elohim as well, and that we actually could have eternal life as if we continue our human evolution in that direction. And a lot of there's this movement called Mormon transhumanism, and I've talked to many Mormons who say that ultimately Mormonism is a transhumanist movement, who believe that we can create genetic ways of expanding our lives to be eternal beings. Maybe expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. First of all, there was never a God. life was always there.
Okay, so
And
it's so we have an eternal, so the universe is eternal. It's always existed. Is that what you're saying?
exactly, the
Okay.
universe is infinite. And in Hebrew, the universe is called Ein Sof, which means there is no end. If there is no end, there is no beginning.
Okay.
You don't know where it starts and where it ends because it's infinite. There is no beginning, there is no end. Now, every human being, either on our planet or on other planets, that receive a message or saw other people from another civilization coming down, for them who were primitives, lack of science and technology, everything that came from above was divine. And if you have, I'm going to bring a small example, then I'll go back to the question. Um, in the Genesis, it said the Nephilim came to earth. The Nephilim, many Jewish people and Hebrew translators say Nephilim are giants. No, I'm sorry. Nephilim comes from the word Naphol because giants in Hebrew is Anakim. And Nephilim, which come from the word Naphol, it means those who fall down.
Mhm.
I mean, they didn't fall down, they came down. They
Mhm.
come down from where? Not from a cloud. They come down for, with engines, with the spaceships, with other technology that they have and that we don't have yet. But now we're able to understand. Now, regarding the life on Earth, I I don't recall your question, but was that
Oh, I think you've covered a lot. Yeah, and I think and actually I want to read something to you. Okay. This is a famous couplet given to us by a Mormon prophet by the name of Lorenzo Snow. It says, "As man now is, God once was. As God now is, man may be." What are your thoughts on that?
well, listen, it's exactly that we're gonna equal the Elohim. And as I mentioned to you last time when we met, is that why governments are forbidden human cloning.
Right? Why is that? Why do you suppose
Why
that is?
is that? Well, if a man in laboratory or a woman in laboratory create the first human being, there is no more place for God. And that's a big problem for governments because what's going to happen with all religious people from the Islam, from the Mormons, from the Christians, from the Jewish, from all the other religions? But how come you allow that the man is playing God? This is what they say. The man start playing God. The man didn't start playing God. God never existed. Another civilization, more advanced than us, came to Earth and created life. They were created by another civilization, and the others were created by another civilization. And it takes a certain time to understand. And now we are in the time of apocalypse, which means revelation. And one day, either here or elsewhere, we're going to start creating life. And that, as I mentioned, we're going to create life on another planet. And because this is a chain of creation of life through universe. And the day we're going to start creating life, the mystery of God will be over because there will be no place between God and the genetician and the creator. It's
Yeah,
very
and
simple, but I mean, people need to be open-minded to read the message that the Elohim gave to Rael. You can go on rael.org. The book is called Intelligent Design. You can download it for free, and it's very simple. Read it with an open-minded.
yeah, and I think it's very fascinating. Of course, we have the intelligent design movement, which is very popular in the evangelical Christian world, in the Catholic world, and even in the Mormon world. The idea that there was an intelligent designer or that actually created life here on Earth, And so you're just basically, I almost want to call Raelianism almost like secular Mormonism or atheistic Mormonism, in that you still have similar cosmologies, but you've basically just made a complete naturalistic argument that doesn't require there to be a divine supernatural. But it's saying that we have humans that are advanced that created us, and within Mormon cosmology, God is a human with flesh and bone who is not outside of creation but part of creation. So you could argue that your understanding of Elohim and the Mormon understanding of Elohim have a lot of parallels and are very similar to each other. I think that's like so important to kind of, and I know I'm probably harping on this a little too much, but I think it's really important for us to kind of grasp onto this idea that Rael, a man who presumably probably didn't know much about Mormonism, or Joseph Smith, seemed to be tapping into the same source that Joseph Smith was tapping into. And to see this parallel taking place over a century apart from each other, two people who didn't know each other, come to almost the same conclusions about the nature of the universe, or have it revealed to them, uh, is truly astounding. And I had no idea how close these parallels are. And I also want to thank Pierre up in Quebec, who reached out to me a couple weeks ago to talk about these important parallels in this cosmology. And it was that aha moment. And that's why I wanted to have the rabbi come on to talk about this. Ariel, I feel like I want to give you some more time just to kind of expand and talk a little bit more about your movement and any other parallels or important things that you would like to get out to my audience today.
Sure. First of all, as I said, read this book, which is for free. You have nothing to pay, and make your own mind. But after you read it, just ask yourself a single question. What if all this is the truth?
Hmm.
What if it is the truth? Because, as you mentioned, someone who lived in the 1800s, like Joseph Smith, we demystified what Joseph Smith said. We demystified what the Tanakh in the scriptures said. We demystified the Christianity. We demystified Buddhism. We are here to demystify that people could understand in very simple words. And before leaving, let me explain you. You have mentioned something about eternal life. And let me explain you how eternal life is done by the Elohim. The Elohim live between 700 and 1,000 years without any disease. When their body start getting weak, between 700 and 1,000, they remove just a cell from that individual. They put it into a special machine or computer they have, and they create exactly the copy of that human being. Now, with their advanced civilization and technology, the same way today you buy a new computer and you download all the memory and everything you have in your old computer into the new one, they have the way, the knowledge, and the technology to download into the new body all the memory, all the knowledge, all the souvenirs, and everything that you had in that old body. And this is the only way to reach eternal life. And after 700 years or 1,000 years, they make the same process to the same human being. So he recalled this, the life that he had in his previous body and in the previous body, and that the one that we call Yahweh, which in Hebrew is Yod He Vav He, why? Yihye Hove Ve Haya. He was, he is, and he will be. Why? Because he's eternal with the same process. And he have been recreated 25,000 times, which means 25,000 years.
Hmm.
So imagine the knowledge, the wisdom, the technology, the souvenirs that this human being that met with Joseph Smith, that met with Rael, that met with Jesus, that was his father, because he inseminated Mary, and probably that was the reason why she was virgin.
Yeah, in other words, you guys believe that Mary was actually artificially inseminated
No,
by
no, no,
Elohim, perhaps?
that's not mentioned in the book. That my own
Okay,
interpretation.
sure. Okay.
It's not mentioned that she was inseminated artificially, but it's a possibility
Uh-huh.
because I don't think many men from the Elohim met with women, especially in the Bible. You have the mother of the prophet Samuel. You have the mother of Shimshon. You have all these women that were sterile. And after meeting with the men of the Elohim, they got pregnant. So, what happened with Mary? Now I can ask also myself a question. What happened with Sarah when the Elohim, three Elohim came to Abraham and sit with them and sit with him and his wife and eat together? And then Sarah was over 90 and she couldn't have any children. She was sterile. And then she got, Yahweh told her, you will have a child. And she started laughing and she got pregnant. So something happened. Was it a technology? Was she inseminated artificially? I don't know. But the question is Isaac the son of Abraham or the son of Yahweh? I have
Fascinating
no
stuff.
proof of that, but you can think.
Yeah. Well, there's so many other fascinating things that, and then maybe we could have you back on, but I want to kind of just even talk about a few things like within Mormon cosmology, they believe that in the Bible it tells us that Enoch was translated. He was taken away. All right. In the expanded Genesis account that Joseph Smith gave us, he says not only was Enoch translated, but actually Enoch built a city and the entire city was translated and is flying through space. And that, well, one day the city of Enoch will return. It also parallels the story in the book of Revelation about the New Jerusalem, which is arguably sounds like a spaceship or a flying city that will be coming back to the earth. So you have this idea within Mormon cosmology that we actually have two space cities that are will eventually come back to establish Zion here on earth. I think, and then I could be interpreting Mormon theology through my own lens. So if I'm getting it wrong, please reach out to me. But it's this idea of two parallel Zions happening. So within Mormon cosmology, they believe one of those places of Zion will be in Independence, Missouri, and that the city of Enoch, in some interpretations, would return to Independence, Missouri. Then you have the city of the New Jerusalem that will return to Jerusalem. Now, in our context, these sure sound like UFOs, floating cities. And so, and also we have to look at just this idea of the idea of we have a 20th century parallel to what you're saying. And during World War II, we saw the development of cargo cults. Are you familiar with the cargo cults? Okay, so the
No.
cargo cults were these islands, these islands of people, these tribes that had no during World War II was the first time they had any um, interactions with people outside of their world, and these planes would land on their islands, and they formed these what John
Yeah,
from
yeah, 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 yeah. I remember. I
yeah
remember.
the
In the
John
island of Tanakh.
yeah the
In the
John
island of
from
Tanakh, they made like an helicopter
airplanes.
or an airplane with palm trees,
Yep.
and they had lights and all that. Yeah, I recall
Yeah.
that.
And so they believe they actually believe that in this man named John From, and they think it says maybe John from America was maybe word, but that John From was the god that they worshipped, and he was this white guy who was presumably a pilot, and they connected cargo that was on the planes that they received as being gifts from heaven. And so you see this idea, and also you see the idea of when the New World was being settled by white people, by what the Western, that they were so much further advanced than the Native Americans that in some cases they were viewed as gods, especially in like by the Aztecs and stuff like that in Mexico. So you can actually see in real time in modern history this idea of people, more primitive people being exposed to further advanced people and likening them unto gods, considering them to be gods and actually putting and worshiping them like gods. So then you can just go back and say, is this something that was happening in ancient times? And if we want a kind of a plausible, rational explanation as to what was going on, whether it's Ezekiel's chariot, whether it's the city of Enoch, whether it's the New Jerusalem, whether it's the idea of being here and then translated to another world, which is what happened to Paul and other people, okay, are these alien experiences? Are the Raelians correct? And in one sense, they are extraterrestrial experiences, whether you believe in a God, because it's outside of our Earth that these intelligences are engaging with humanity. What do you think about that, Ariel?
Well, you are correct, 100%. We have been created by a more advanced civilization. Our primitive ancestors, they thought they were gods. And this is all explained in our book, Intelligent Design, that you can download for free. And as I mentioned a few seconds ago, just read it with an open mind and ask yourself a simple question. What if this is the truth?
Well, I think this was a very fascinating conversation. And I always tell people, I said,
I would like to ask you something,
oh,
Stephen.
sure, certainly,
As you,
certainly.
as you mentioned, you have many rabbis, you're acquainted with many rabbis and all that.
Hmm.
I will be delighted if you can arrange a Zoom meeting
Sure,
with any of these rabbis where I can bring all the citations from
certainly.
Hebrew scripts confirming without the slight doubt the Elohim are a more advanced civilization that came to earth and created life, and there was no God. Because the Tanakh, the Genesis, the book of the Bible, the original Hebrew Bible in Hebrew, doesn't mention any God. Mention only Elohim, which is a plural of the word Eloha.
Yes. And I think, and I also think it's really important. That's another parallel that I want to point out is that Joseph Smith realized the plurality of gods when he was first told by a Rabbi Seixas in Kirtland, Ohio, approximately in 1835, when they were doing the School of the Prophets and they are being tutored by this rabbi who comes from a very prominent rabbi family from New York City. And that's when the idea of plurality of gods enters into Mormon cosmology. Okay, this is very important. We also need to understand a lot of people like to have this sanitized view of the Bible and that the Jews were always monotheistic. This is incorrect. There were ideas of multiple gods did exist, and even the Bible even acknowledges that there were other gods, and they would sometimes do battle with each other. So there was this, and then if we look at the oldest book of the Bible, the book of Job, where we actually have a heavenly council of Elohim gathered, and you also even have the devil, the accuser, as part of that council, or at least engaging that council, which is, of course, very similar to Mormon cosmology as well. So we have all this stuff that there are, there isn't just an angel, Elohim. These are divine beings. Okay, so we have to understand that there is a pantheon of gods in one context that's in early primitive Judaism that a lot of people like to easily dismiss, especially mainstream Christians. Joseph Smith is not afraid to engage even that world and that cosmology that existed, a much more primitive, older type of tradition within Judaism, and is able to then bring that out and bring that into the modern era. And it sounds to me like the Raelian movement is doing a similar thing as well.
Exactly. We're
Wow.
doing the same. We are bringing a message of peace, love, fraternity to all human beings and to entire humanity with the respect of life, respect of all trees, of all birds, of all lives, of all animals, and especially between human beings, because we are part of a whole and we are all one. And when we see people killing others that they don't even know because they receive an order to go and fight someone or kill someone or go and fight like Russians and Ukrainians or Israelis and Palestinians or in Africa or elsewhere, these are all manipulation. by those countries who produce weapons that create conflicts to sell their weapons. Because people, they don't want to kill each other. We are here to love each other. And this is why we meditate for peace every day. We meditate for peace to send waves of love, of peace, of harmony, and of hope to the entire humanity.
You know,
And this is very important
I
that
also
we
want to tell you too.
meditate for peace.
I love that you brought that up because I actually want to tell you a little bit about the second largest group that believes in Joseph Smith and is part of the Restoration movement, and that is what was called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but now they call themselves the Community of Christ. I want to let you know that every day that church does a prayer for peace, and they pray for a different country every day. That church has also become a peace church, which is conscientious objection, and they're against war. That church is the direct actual heirs to Joseph Smith. So the Mormons that chose to stay back and not follow Brigham Young actually started this peace church that's anti-war and prays for peace and meditates for peace every day. So that's another legacy of Joseph Smith that maybe people don't appreciate or are unaware of as well. Well, I could probably go on for another hour with you. I think we're learning from each other. I think you've taught me things. I think you've taught my audience. I think that I may have taught some things to you. I think this is good. We could have good experiences. I will reach out to some of my Jewish scholars. Dr. Nehemiah Gordon, who's quite large. I know he's had a Raelian on your program, so he might be interested. He's one of the top Hebrew scholars in the world, so it'd be interesting and he's a Karaite Jew, so he's not a rabbinic Jew, he's a Karaite. So maybe just having a pure conversation about the text itself might be a great conversation with him. I'll reach out to him to see if I also have Rabbi Joe Karnas, who's a good friend. I call him the Rambling Rabbi. Him and I have wonderful talks with each other. I think maybe we can get him to engage your stuff as well. I wanted to ask you a quick question, if you don't mind me asking. Um, if you don't mind, and I want to be respectful of your sacred objects, if you will, but your pendant, can you show me the pendant that you're wearing, if you don't mind? Okay. Now, people might have noticed in the background, of course, that image there. Now, that's to many people quite controversial to have a Star of David and a swastika in the same image. I would like for you to address that.
Wow. That's the oldest symbol on earth. And this is a symbol of the Elohim have on their suit when they met with Rael. And
Okay.
this is a symbol they have on their spaceship. And that's a symbol of infinity. It means the two triangles of representing the Star of David are the infinitely large and the infinitely small. And the swastika in the middle, as you know, this is a religious symbol in India, in Asian countries. So it have nothing to do with Nazis. If Hitler took this as a symbol, probably it was to make the pure race because the swastika represent purity. And besides that, or another idea that I have, maybe he wants to make Jewish people hate this symbol that he used because this is the real symbol of the Star of David.
Okay.
Let's explain what these two triangles mean.
Okay.
The infinitely small and the infinitely large. It means we are living on a planet. This planet is on a solar system. This solar system is on a galaxy. This galaxy is in the universe. And this universe is infinite, which means the same way this infinitely large for us, it's a cell of something or someone mostly that is alive. Could be an animal, could be a worm, could be a cat, could be something. It means we are inside someone. Another example, this is the infinitely large, which means one atom of one of ourselves is inside someone much bigger than us that is looking at another sky
Mm.
and representing something that we call infinitely large. The same thing like one atom of one of our cells, it's an entire universe
Yeah.
with galaxies, with solar systems, with planets where there is life. Now, maybe the time to breathe for us is maybe 100 years for them. And we cannot connect because it's so much different between them and us in the infinity small that, maybe 100 years from them, it's maybe a half a second for us.
Yeah.
And the same thing for inside the body that we are living, or inside the atom of the cell of that giant creature, or we think it's giant because maybe we are very small as well compared to this human being or an animal that is alive. And our galaxy, our entire universe is an atom of one cell of that creature, which is not a god.
Mm.
He is also looking at another sky, and inside himself there are also atoms like we are, and he is another inside his galaxy is another atom, and so and so and so and so. It's like the Russian dolls that one goes inside the other.
Mhm. Fascinating. Well, I think again, I think people who are familiar with Mormon cosmology would probably pick up on a few things. I would ask a question. Do you stay in contact with Rael, or is he somebody
Oh,
that you?
definitely, yes, all the
Okay.
time.
And I would like to just, first of all, I would ask you to maybe once I release this episode, I'd love for you to share it with him and love to hear what he thinks of it. But I also want to ask him is that, Joseph Smith believed that God or Elohim resides on a planet or a planet near a star named Kolob. I wanted to ask Rael if he is familiar with this planet Kolob, and because maybe perhaps Joseph Smith has actually named the planet of this 25,000 year advanced civilization that Rael engaged with as well. So I'd be curious to get his thoughts on that and yours as well.
Well, I don't know about it, and it doesn't mention that in his book because sometimes we ask him, what's the name of the planet of the Elohim? He said, they didn't tell me.
Well, have him ask if he's in contact with the Elohim, have him ask them if they're familiar with the planet or star Kolob,
I
and if
have a
they've been
suggestion
there
for
or if
you.
that's where they're from.
I have a suggestion for you.
Yes, sir.
We're going to celebrate the 58th anniversary of the second encounter he had with the Elohim, where they took him to their planet in 1975 on October 7th. And this year, we're going to celebrate the 58th anniversary of that encounter in Okinawa, Japan, where he lives. So
Oh,
you are most welcome to join us and attend. And that will be great because I'll be there and he will be there and many other people will be there.
well, thank you so much, Ariel, for the invitation. I am a big interfaith advocate. I love it when different cultures and religions and people groups um, engage with each other because I do believe that we all are image bearers, and we need to put aside this destructive mindset of trying to destroy each other and battle each other. Let's put our weapons to the side. Let's make them into plowshares, and let's help bring forth Zion as how many people would understand it. Ariel, I want to thank you so much again.
Just
This,
before we finish,
oh, please do.
uh, yes, we are part of a whole. And let's never forget, Rael always told us, if I give you the order to kill someone or to do something against your consciences, or even if the Elohim asks you to do it, don't do it. And this is why, because the one that receive an order and the one that pull the trigger is as responsible, the one that pulled the trigger than the one that gave the order. And we are all part of a whole. We are, each one of us is a cell of this huge body that composes humanity. And it's like the cell of my finger shooting at the cell of my leg to kill that cell.
Mm.
It will be that possible if we are normal people. So the same thing that we cannot hurt ourselves or stick a knife into our leg to kill a cell is the same thing that we should, the same way we should behave with each one of us, with love, because it's written in the Ten Commandments, don't kill, you shall not kill, and you shall not steal. And what Israel is doing right now? Stealing Palestinian houses and killing other human beings that have more right to their land than those who came from Poland, from Russia, from Ukraine, or from Morocco, or from anywhere in the world. Because these people, the Palestinian people, had to convert to Islam, and they were the Jews that stayed in the land of Israel after the diaspora.
Well, I want to thank you so much for
Think
sharing your
about that.
message. I think there's a lot to ponder, a lot to think about during this conversation, a lot of food for thought for me as well. Of course, I am not a Mormon. I'm an evangelical who believes in more conventional, traditional Christianity. But I also think that we need to look through different lenses and also understand. And I think Latter-day Saints, I think you need to look at the Raelian movement and ask yourselves, do we have more in common with the Raelians than we do with conventional Christianity, at least when it comes to cosmology and our understanding of God? I think that should be a great question for you to consider as well. A lot to think about. I think this will be a great conversation starter. Ariel, I want to thank you so much, Rabbi, for blessing me by coming on today. And I'm going to have links in the descriptions to everything he talked about, including their website where you can get the book, Intelligent Design. And remember, the most important thing is this: all the voices of the restoration will be heard
Thank you.
here on Mormon Book Reviews.